Listen, I had to go live on this one because we've been waiting for student loan forgiveness for well over a decade. Many of us who have been on this journey fighting for student loan forgiveness of any kind, if not the whole thing being forgiven. And then we've been having our student loans in deferment. If you had a federal student loan, they've been in deferment for 2.5 years. And finally, today, August 24th, 2022, the eighth month in the year of our Lord 2022, on the 24th day, they finally decided, the President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris and the Harris administration finally announced that here's what our student loan forgiveness plan and what's going to be forgiven. Here's what it looks like. Hey, tell Samira, how are you doing? How are you? Did you hear the news? They finally are doing some type of student loan forgiveness that is going to impact most people who owe student loans. Now, I'm just going to go over the Biden Harris student loan forgiveness plan and initiative. And then I'm also going to go over what we were initially told when they were running for office for the 2020 presidential election. So there's a fact sheet of President Biden announces student loan relief for borrowers who need it the most. There is a fact sheet. Hey, what's going on, Seven Ships? Yes, tell Samira. Yes, I heard what's going on, Seven Ships. Thank y'all for tuning in this evening. But let's talk about it. So it's a 3-part plan. President Biden promises to cancel $10,000 of student loan for low to middle income borrowers. Now, basically, if one person makes $125,000 or less, you're eligible. If you are married or filing your taxes joint with another person, you can make up to $250,000 as a couple or filing jointly. And still be eligible for the $10,000 of student loan forgiveness for federal student loans. What's going on, Latifah? What's going on? Seven Ships. I'm happy for the 10,000K, but it's not adding up to what he initially said. Agreed. And that's what I kind of want to get to in this as well. I agree. So I want to put this out. Since 1980, the total cost of both 4-year public and 4-year private colleges. Hi, Patrice. Thank you for tuning in. For 4-year private college and 4-year public college has nearly tripled. Even after accounting for inflation, federal support has not kept up. Pell Grants once covered nearly 80% of the cost of a 4-year public college degree for students from working families, but now only cover a third, like 30%. Okay, that has left many students from low and middle income families with no choice but to borrow if they want to get a degree, a college education. According to the Department of Education analysis, the typical undergraduate student with loans now graduates with nearly $25,000 in student loan debt. Now, in full transparency, when I graduated from undergrad, I talk about this a lot. I was able to obtain 2 associate's degrees from my local community college for free because I had a full ride scholarship. When I graduated with my bachelor's of arts in sociology with a minor in substance abuse treatment in 2014, I had about $13,000 worth of debt. And the out cold part is I paid $11,000 of that off before I went back for my master's degree. So technically I only owed $2,000 when I enrolled for my master's degree, because I took that 1.5 years and paid it back. I graduated May of 2014 and I came back in September of 2015. So just to kind of put it out there. All right. So when you look at the cost of attending college has skyrocketed. back in a 4-year college back in 1980, okay, was a little under $6,000. Okay. Or I should say, was a little over $8,000. And Pell Grant paid a little under $6,000. So, like I said, about 80% of your funding was paid for back in 1980. Fast forward to 2000. Well, we'll go to 2010 when I enrolled in college. The average cost of a 4-year at that time was about 20,000, and your Pell Grant was like a little over 6,000. So you see the problem here. So by the time you get to 2020, 2021, it's a little over 6,000, but the cost of school now is about 22, 23,000 on average for a 4-year public university. So when you look at that, right? So the skyrocketing cumulative federal student loan debt is at $1.6 trillion and rising for more than 45 million borrowers. I'm one of those 45 million. I'm sure some of you are a part of that 45 million. Okay. We need student loan forgiveness. This is very true. Okay. So, when you look at that, and they're also talking about how it's a significant burden on America's middle class, but I'm just going to go there. Anybody that's low income to middle class in this day and age more than likely is suffering. Okay. So, and then borrowers struggle with highly monthly payments and ballooning balances that make it harder for them to build wealth, such as buying a home, putting away money for retirement, starting a small business. But here's the thing. We were supposed to be able to build wealth because we went to college. Remember, that was the lie that was also told to all of us. The propaganda behind us going to college was we're going to be able to get decent paying jobs, we're going to have careers, we're going to make all of this money, and they would even tell you, oh, don't even worry about the student loans because you won't have to pay it back until after 6 months after you graduate, because that's the grace period. And who cares, because even then you're going to be making all of this money because of your degree. And I've never made a lot of money with my degrees. The only decent paying job I had was 4 years ago when I was making $60,000 a year before taxes and deductions. Keep in mind, I was working well over 40 hours a week. My average work week at that particular job 4 years ago was 60 hours a week. So I wasn't really being compensated. I was working 20 hours extra per week on average for free because I was salaried. So that's just to put it, and mind you, I still owed 40 something thousand dollars at the time because I had graduated from a master's program at a public 4-year university. Like, it's just really insane, but okay. So, and then when you start breaking it down, nearly 1/3 of borrowers have debt, but no degree. I have friends who have debt and have no degree, which is also something that needs to be looked into. Many of the students could not complete their degree because of the cost of attendance was too high. About 16% of those borrowers are in default, including nearly 1/3 of senior citizens with student debt, which can result in the government garnishing a borrower's wages or lowering a borrower's credit score. The student debt burden also falls disproportionately on African American and Black borrowers, brown borrowers, Hispanic and Latino borrowers, borrowers of color. 20 years after first enrolling in school, the typical Black borrower who started college in 1995 and 1996 school year still owes 95% of their original student debt. There's a problem. Like I said, I'm trying to figure out how I've been paying my student loans since May of 2014, and yet I still owed $46,150, even after I paid $11,000 off from my undergraduate. Again, the interest is what's causing a lot of these problems, quite frankly. And then the outcode part is I only took out $33,000 for my graduate level. So even if we would have added the $33,000 plus the $2,000 that was still left over from undergrad, I should only owe 35,000, but somehow it turned to 46,150. And that's my whole point. You're sitting up getting robbed because interest is like destroying the whole payment. You're not even touching the principal half the time because interest is coming and snatching it away, which makes no sense because these are federal. Most of, like, for example, my student loans are federal. And quite frankly, the federal government is not supposed to be making a profit off of us. They're not supposed to, which is another reason why I don't get why federal student loans even have interest rates. They shouldn't have them, in my personal opinion. It's just ridiculous. It's just a constant loop. Okay, Latifa, I only had 6,000 left to pay, so the 10,000 is perfect for me. Congratulations, you debt free. Congratulations. It's time. Look, I hope you celebrate. I hope you do something special for you because you deserve it. However, I know a lot of people will still be screwed because student loans are so predatory. So good start, but I want Biden to do better. I agree. I totally agree. So today, President President Joe Biden is announcing a three-part plan to provide more breathing room to America's working families as they continue to recover from strains associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, the plan offers targeted debt relief as part of a comprehensive effort to address the burden of growing college costs and make the student loan system more manageable for working families. The president is announcing that the Department of Education will do the following. Number one, provide targeted debt relief to address the financial harms of the pandemic, fulfilling the president's campaign commitment. Now, here's the thing. This is not really fulfilling that because he literally ran the campaign on at first, it was, we're going to forgive all federal student loans. Then it turned into, we're going to forgive $50,000 worth of federal student loans, to now, depending on if you had Pell Grant or not, you might get 10,000 forgiven, you might get 20,000 forgiven. So that's not the full campaign promise. However, he has fulfilled the campaign promise of forgiving some of the student loans. And he's forgiven student loans over the past year. I mean, case in point, if you are on Social Security disability, your student loans were forgiven last year. So that's just something to think about. But it isn't the complete campaign promise. But anyways, the Department of Education will provide up to $20,000 in debt collection to Pell Grant recipients with loans held by the Department of Education. I was a Pell Grant recipient. So technically, I had $20,000 removed from the $46,150. I still owe $26,150. So again, like you said, those who had $20,000 or less in student loans from the federal government are sitting real pretty right now. You know what I mean? So more power to you. Congratulations. I'm happy that you are free from that debt. And I hope that you continue to prosper and live a great life. And that's real. To those of us that still have debt, it sucks because it's like, well, damn. You know, we're still sitting around in debt. And granted, 26,000 is a lot better than 46,000, obviously. So, you know, I'm one of those beggars can't be choosy types. However, I still don't have 26,000 sitting somewhere that I can just chip out, obviously. Because after taxes and deductions, I make $28,646.32 a year. So where is that 26,000 coming from? That you're gonna leave me with $2,646.32, and I'm gonna use not even $3,000 to live off for the year. It's not really realistic. It is what it is. We should have gotten the 50,000 at the bare minimum forgiven. If not, all federal student loans should have been forgiven personally. But there are options. If you didn't have Pell Grant, you're going to get up to $10,000 in debt cancellation to non-Pell Grant recipients. The borrowers are eligible for relief if their individual income is less than $125,000, as I stated earlier. If it's a married couple, if it's $250,000 or less, you're eligible. No high income individual or high income household in the top 5% of incomes will benefit from this action. To ensure a smooth transition to repayment and prevent unnecessary defaults, the pause on federal student loan repayment will be extended one final time. So we have until December 31st. The minute January comes in, 2023, January 1st, payments are back. So please do understand, you got basically 4 months and then you back to making payments. Understand that, please. Okay. So to make the student loan system more manageable for current and future borrowers, they're cutting monthly payments in half for undergraduate federal loans. So those of us that still have undergrad student loans, they're cutting them in half, which that is going to help some of us. Let's just keep it real. However, I don't think it's fair that it's only undergrad. I don't get why graduate level federal student loans can't be cut in half as well. Again, a lot of this is just predatory because that's just it. A lot of us were literally lied to about the importance of getting these degrees. And a lot of us were told if we got graduate level degrees, you know, master's degrees, PhDs, etc., we were told that we were going to make more money in our fields because we had graduate level, professional level degrees. And I'm here to tell you, depending on your field, that is the biggest crock of SHIT. Because I make $40,000 before taxes and deductions with a master's degree with over 9 years of experience. It's a slap in the face. I didn't need to go to get a master's degree to make $14.92 an hour after taxes and deductions. It's a ripoff. And that's what I mean by it's just a constant scam, in my opinion. But that's, you know. So if you have undergraduate federal loans, they're going to be proposing a new income-driven repayment plan that protects more low-income borrowers from making any payments and caps monthly payments for undergraduate federal loans at 5% of a borrower's discretionary income. Half of the rate that borrowers must pay now under most existing plans. This means the average annual student loan payment will be lowered by more than $1,000 for both current and future borrowers. That's major. That's major. I need to get me a shot. I need me a Moscow Mule. I need me some Henny and some burners like that. That's major there, because a lot of us are going to be paying either nothing or like $50, you know, for undergraduate student loans, right? Like that's a big deal. Fixing the broken public service loan forgiveness program by proposing a rule that borrowers who have worked at nonprofit, in the military, or in federal, state, tribal, or local government, I've done that as well, receive appropriate credit toward loan forgiveness. These improvements will build on temporary changes the Department of Education has already made to the public service loan forgiveness, under which more than 100,000 public servants have already had more than $10 billion in loan forgiveness approved, which is true. I am applying for it. I'm eligible. Again, most of my work experience has been with nonprofits, has been public service, working for the local and state government. I've done a lot of that. And God, I have at least, out of those 9 years, I have at least 7 that I can use. I'm going to have to contact the IRS to get all of my tax documents because, again, if you know anything about nonprofits, some of them don't last. So like some of these nonprofits, I can't go back to get their signature because they don't exist anymore. However, I pay taxes and IRS has that information. And I've been making payments since May of 2014 on my student loans. So I might be able to get my $26,000 forgiven. So that's why I'm like, okay. Now, protection for future students and taxpayers by reducing the cost of college and holding schools accountable when they hike prices. The president championed the largest increase to Pell Grants in over a decade and one of the largest one-time influxes to colleges and universities. Let me see if you all are saying anything in the chat. Elijah Douglas, what's going on, Elijah? Thank you for tuning in. I'm so glad I didn't go to grad school. Would not have been worth it at all. I'm going to be honest. And I'm not saying this to, I don't want to say this to be negative or to discourage you or anyone who wants to pursue a college education, whether that's undergrad, graduate, PhD. But what I will say is investigate. If the job market for that specific field is not lucrative, it's not worth going into debt for it. It's really that simple. I wish I would have had this information 12 years ago, or better yet, 7 years ago. I would have never went, think about it. 7 years ago, I would have never went to grad school and all my student loans would have been forgiven today. Because at that time, I only owed $2,000. You know what I mean? I could have paid that off by myself. Like I said, I paid $11,000 off by myself in a year and a half. So that's how I know, like, I don't recommend grad school for fields that are not lucrative. You need to research what the job field is like, what the pay is, you know, what the likelihood of you getting that wage, that salary. You need to research all of that before making a decision, because a lot of these programs, in my opinion, are useless financially. They're useless as hell financially, because again, what's the purpose of you going into debt to live check to check for an education that's supposed to help you get more money, help you bring yourself out of poverty, or help you have upward mobility? What's the point if you're going to be sitting up broke in debt and working somewhere that doesn't pay you anything? It's a slap in the face. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. But yeah, so to further reduce the cost of college, the president will continue to fight to double the maximum Pell Grant and make community college free. I believe all public universities and colleges should be free. We pay taxes. We're all losing between 20 to 25% of our income in taxes every time we get paid. It needs to be paid off. The administration has already taken key steps to strengthen accountability, including in areas where the previous administration weakened rules. The Department of Education is announcing new efforts to ensure student borrowers get value for their college costs, provide targeted debt relief, fulfilling the president's campaign. So that's that, okay? So, for example, this is really big here. The Department of Education will provide, again, up to $20,000 in loan relief to borrowers with loans held by the Department of Education whose individual income is less than $125,000. Me, I only make $40,000 a year before taxes and deductions, and I had Pell Grant in undergrad. And who received a Pell Grant? Me! Okay, so nearly every Pell Grant recipient came from a family that made less than $60,000 a year. A Pell Grant recipient typically experiences more challenging repaying their debt than other borrowers. Borrowers who met those income standards but did not receive a Pell Grant, again, you're going to get $10K, okay? So that's something to think about, all right? It's going to provide relief up to 43 million borrowers, including canceling the full remaining balance for nearly 20 million borrowers, such as some of you who have already commented, like Latifa. Yours has been completely forgiven, so you're a part of that 20 million borrowers. Hello, Erica. What's going on? What's going on? Thank you for tuning in. So that's big. Again, the targeted relief dollars to low and middle income borrowers. So, for example, among borrowers who are no longer in school, nearly 90% of relief dollars will go to those earning less than $75,000 a year. Me! No individual making more than 125 or households making more than 250, the top 5% of incomes in the United States. They are not going to receive any relief. Help borrowers of all ages. The Department of Education estimates that among borrowers who are eligible for relief, 21% are 25 years and under, and 44% are 26 to 39. I'm a part of the 44%. More than a third of the borrowers are 40 and up, and including 5% of people who have student loans are senior citizens. Advance racial equity. By targeting relief to borrowers with the highest economic need, the administration actions are likely to help narrow racial wealth gap. Black students are more likely to have a borrower to borrow for school and more likely to take out larger loans. Black borrowers are twice as likely to have received Pell Grants than their peers to receive Pell Grants. That is why an Urban Institute study, which I'll have a link to all of this in the description box once this is edited and posted, found that debt forgiveness programs target those who receive Pell Grants while in college will advance racial equity. Okay, so that is a good thing to see. Now, here's what they're going to do to, fix situations, right? So for undergraduate loans, cut in half the amount that borrower have to pay each month for undergraduate federal student loans is now 10% of your discretionary income. Discretionary. As in, you know what that means, like up to your discretion. So basically, your net income, you only have to pay 5% of that. That's major, okay? Raise the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary income, and therefore it is protected from repayment. Guarantee that no borrower earning under 225% of the federal poverty level above the equivalent of a $15 minimum wage for a single borrower will have to make a monthly payment. So think about that. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to have to make monthly payments on income-driven plans. Forgive loan forgiveness after 10 years of payments. Include instead of 20 years for borrowers with original loan balances of $12,000 or less. The Department of Education estimate that this reform will allow nearly all community college borrowers to be debt-free within 10 years. And that's beautiful. I also personally hope that with the public student loan forgiveness, they move it from 10 years to 7, because those of us that are in public service type fields, we all know we typically are the lowest paid people. Like, I'm sorry, but nonprofits don't typically pay well unless you're working for a major nonprofit and you're in a leadership position. Teachers, you already know there's teachers. Hello, I look at myself. Technically, I teach classes. I teach financial education and home ownership education. And then I look at other teachers that are in the public school system. We're not making over $40,000 most of the time. So I do think it should be lowered from 10 to 7 for the public service loan forgiveness. Okay, the reforms would simplify loan repayment and deliver significant savings, again, to low and middle income borrowers. So a typical single construction worker making $38,000 a year with a construction management credential would pay only $31 a month compared to the $147 that you would be paying under the most recent income. So again, that's a yearly savings for that individual of $1,400. So I look at myself, I make $2,000 more. So for me, my monthly bill might be like $60, $70 instead of $127. So I think about little things like that where I'm like, okay, that does help me. And then I also had $20,000 forgiven. So that does help me. And then keep in mind, you're only obligated to pay your monthly. So if you decide to pay over, that's just going to help you chip away at the interest and at the principal even more. So if I only have to pay $70 and then I decide I'm going to pay $150 this month, that's going to help me a lot. Versus my bill is $150 and then I would have to pay $300 to do something. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to help. It is going to help some of us. However, I would have much rather us had it completely forgiven. Erica, this should pay 50% for me. Finally, I'm happy for people even if I wasn't strapped with student loans. Same. I'm with you on that. I agree. A typical public school teacher with an undergraduate degree making $44,000 a year would, I might not even be paying $70 then, would pay only $56 a month on their loans compared to the $197 that they pay now under the most recent, which is going to give that person at $44,000 a year a savings of $1,700. A typical nurse making and this is something what we're talking about. Why? And when I say this, I'm not trying to disrespect public healthcare workers, but why is the nurse making 77, the teacher's making 44, and the construction worker is making 38? Why can't we all be making 77 and up? All of us went to school. All of us are providing a skill set. All of us are risking our lives. So why? That's another thing in itself, is why certain fields get paid better than others. And then certain fields require, hello, you have an undergraduate degree, you have a bachelor's in nursing, and you're making more than a person with a master's. That's what we're talking about. It's a bunch of misinformation and just straight up pay discrepancies that doesn't make any sense. This is another reason why I don't recommend going to grad school, because what's the point? A nurse with a BSN is making more money than me, and I got a master's degree. So that's what I mean by it don't really make sense to me to be going into grad school, especially if that field is not lucrative. It doesn't make sense. You're just going into debt to live in poverty. Don't make sense to me. But anyways, a nurse can make up to $77,000 who is married with 2 kids and would pay only $61 a month for their undergraduate loans compared to $295 that they're currently paying. And that would save them $2,800. So it does help a lot. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. Is it complete student loan forgiveness where they're wiping away everybody's student loans? No. I would have loved to see federal student loans completely forgiven. Quite frankly, I think private student loans should be forgiven as well. This debt relief does not help those who have private student loans. So if you got a private student loan through a bank, you know what I mean, through you, what have you, you still owe what you owe, unfortunately, because the federal government can't control necessarily, even though they can do regulations. They can't control the private sector. They can only control the public sector. So if you have private student loans, whether it's undergraduate, graduate, postdoc, PhD level, you still owe the same amount. The interest rates are still out of control, and that's unfortunate. You didn't get any relief for those, unfortunately. And I do agree that they should have got relief as well. Quite frankly, it's $1.6 trillion, yet we just gave $3 billion again to Ukraine. I'm just going to throw it out there. It amazes me how we can forgive PP loans, okay? The Paycheck Protection Program loans that everybody got in 2020. And these were people who were millionaires, business owners, business owners who had their loans forgiven, but then people that are literally living check to check, low income, we don't make millions of dollars, we can't get our student loans forgiven completely, but you can forgive a millionaire. I'm just saying, sometimes we need to be real. That rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't agree with that part. I also don't get how this government can, arbitrarily decide to give $3 billion to Ukraine after we done already gave them billions of dollars throughout this entire year since February. The past 6 months, the USA government has just been giving money, our tax dollars, to Ukraine. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, they're in a war. It is sad. People have died. People are dying. Okay, lives have been ruined. Entire communities, cities, towns, countries have been destroyed. And at the same time, you can give $3 billion, but then you can't forgive student loans. You can forgive the millionaires and the business owners PPP loans, but you can't forgive all of the federal student loans, or even some of the private loans. It's just wild to me how they pick and choose who they can spend money on, who's worthy of getting the money, and then who doesn't get the money. You know what I mean? That's just strange to me. Cyrene90, aka 9, what's going on? Thank you for discussing this. No problem. Information will be in the description box below. Hi, Latoya. I have $23,000 in student loans. $10,000 definitely helps me. It's my only debt left. I'm glad that it's helping you. I'm glad that it's helping me. I'm helping some of us. And gosh, so that means that you owe $13,000. So that's not bad. And again, if you can sign up for the public service loan forgiveness program, please consider it. Because you might be able to get more forgiven, if not all forgiven. So check it out. Information is in the description box below once this is edited and posted. 7 ships, they have our tax money to Ukraine without thinking twice, yet it took 2 to 3 years for them to give us 10,000. Will you speak? Will you preach? Will you preach? Thank you. That's what, it just amazes me. You feel me? They can just give and be done with it, but then when it comes to us, and we the one, that's our money, we the ones working. But we don't have a say-so over where our tax money go. It's out of control. I agree. Latoya, thank you. No problem. Congratulations, for real. Because I'm excited today as well. So no problem. But information is in the description box below. It is 7:20 and I need to get on out of here. I got things to do. But congratulations to everyone, to those of us that have had student loan forgiveness, to those of us that's been able to pay off our student loans to get out of debt. But obviously, this is the beginning, and we still have a long way to go. We still need to have free college education, K through college. If it's a public university, public college, it should be free. We're paying taxes. We're losing 20 to 25% of our income every time we get paid in taxes. So we should be able to pay for free education. We need to have more student loan forgiveness, more options for people to get out of debt. And quite frankly, there needs to be a discussion on raising the federal minimum wage. Because my thing is, if you're saying that $125,000 for one person is considered middle class, then obviously 40,000 is more than low income. That's basically hovering over the poverty line, because 40,000 and 125 is drastically different. You're literally making 3 times what I make. So do you see what I'm saying here? We need to discuss what a living wage is. And also, in my opinion, we need to hold, the government needs to regulate employers. Because these employers, these jobs, these corporations, they need to be forced to pay their employees living wages. There's a lot of wage theft going on, and that's really the big problem, because that's just it. If we were making the money that we're supposed to make with our college education, we wouldn't need student loan forgiveness, because technically with a master's, I should be making $88,000 a year. If I was making $88,000 a year, I would be able to pay off my student loans and get my car fixed, get out of credit card debt, take care of my family better, have a better savings. If I was making what the heck I'm supposed to be getting paid with my college education and years of experience. So again, I think there needs to be regulation with these jobs and corporations and nonprofits, etc., who refuse to pay living wages. And pay people their worth. TC Dub Beats, what's going on, TC? I got like 9,000 plus left. Been paying for 10 years. Did you do Pell Grant? Because if you did Pell Grant, you're gonna get up to 20,000. 20,000 would be removed completely. Or if that's all you have is 9,000 left, they would take that. Because if you get the 10,000, that's paid off. If you get 20,000, that's paid. You know what I mean? That'll be paid off. But I agree. And again, you've been paying for a decade. That's what I'm talking about. Make it make sense, y'all. People been making payments for decades. Like I said, for me, it's been 8 years. For TC Dubs, it's been 10. And then there's people that's been paying for 20 and 30 and still owe. And they owe over what they took out because of the interest. It's predatory as hell. It's predatory lending. That's exactly what student loans are. Predatory lending. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Information is in the description box below. And I'm out of here. See y'all later.